Now, with Youth Month officially underway, new findings from the latest credit stress report by 80/20 show that nearly 40% of South Africans who have defaulted on their credit are under the age of 35. This report highlights a worrying trend where young people are falling into debt early in life due to easy access to high-risk credit, limited financial literacy, and persistent youth unemployment. Many of them, as you can imagine, then enter adulthood already burdened by financial instability and limited support. Let's get a better sense of this issue with Samantha Moyana, who's a debt counsellor with National Debt and joins us now via our video link. Samantha, it's great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for making time to speak to us. I wonder if you can just give us a bit more details about just how widespread this is, this issue of young people falling into debt. The report I cited speaks of about 40% of credit defaulters under the age of 35. What's typically the type of debts that these young people are struggling with?
Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Young people today face numerous financial challenges that impact their financial stability. They often struggle with debt, including student loans, credit cards, and any other form of borrowing. So due to lack of basic knowledge about personal finance and investing and managing their debt, it makes it harder for them to get out of this financial stress.
Yeah. And I imagine there's a cycle that kind of builds, right? The type of people who typically have this debt come from the kinds of environments where they don't need this burden.
Definitely is.
Yeah. What impact does this have ultimately then when you try to take stock of how easy it is for these young people to get out of that particular cycle?
You know, it's a bit difficult if you do not know how to manage your debt. You know, when you're still young, you get your first job, you get excited when you get offered a loan, credit card, or clothing accounts. Some people just take those accounts out because I can qualify, but with not a valid reason as to why they're actually taking it out. And then you find them in debt cycles because now, okay, I'm overwhelmed, I've got the credit card, how to use it, I'm an impulsive spender, and then you get yourself into a debt cycle which will be very quite hard to get out of. Hence why it's very important for us to instill education to young people when they start working as the importance, the disadvantages and the advantages of taking out certain accounts. Yes, it is important to build your credit score, but do not overwhelm yourself with too much debt that you cannot handle.
Yeah. And where do you think, Samantha, the problem ultimately lies? I mean, you've mentioned, for example, financial literacy or the lack thereof as one of the issues. But to what extent does how easy it is to get this credit also contribute to the problem?
You know, when it's so easy, because influence as well, you know, so many people get influenced as to taking out debt. You know, you see your peers dressing nice, you see your peers driving nice cars, then you find yourself in that pressure to take out the debt because you want to live a certain lifestyle, but forgetting your affordability. So it's easy to access this debt, especially credit card, personal loans. They don't really actually ask much, especially also clothing accounts. And then you keep taking more and more, and then you find yourself the balances are accumulating, and then it's kind of hard for you now to keep up with the installments.
Yeah. Of course, there's also the issue of youth unemployment, which I imagine contributes to these kind of problems when young people don't know where else to look. Sometimes the credit is just too alluring to resist.
True. Youth unemployment in South Africa is over 50%, with many people struggling to find jobs due to lack of skills and education. So the economy is not really catering much jobs to absorb the growing number of young people entering into the labor market.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you have this information with you, Samantha, but do you have a kind of breakdown of the demographics of the young people who typically find themselves in this situation? Not only because of our history, but we also know there's a concept of black tax in South Africa, where typically young black professionals first have to start taking care of the situation back home before building their own lives.
Black tax has affected a lot of black young people because when you start working, you have this obligation to take care of your family or to work back home. We are not that privileged as other people, whereby when you start working, your money is yours. You can see to yourself. There's a lot of things that we feel pressured to do at home, hence why you find so many people. If you can actually do a lot of research, why do you have this loan? Why do you have this credit card? Most people say, I needed to extend at home. I needed to help my sibling with their matric ball. I needed to maybe take out this loan to help with my siblings' tuition fees. So there's a lot that impacts or contributes as to why so many, especially young black people, are finding themselves in this debt cycle.
And there's a temptation, I imagine, to just bury your head in the sand if you find yourself in this situation, which I'm told is not necessarily the wisest thing to do. How many people do you find know that the most important step perhaps to take if you find yourself over indebted is actually to speak out and not to go into the shadows?
Definitely, you need to speak out. Hence why there's now financial advisors who can be able to assist you. You need to also curb yourself as an individual. Yes, temptation is out there. We all get pressured, but also remember your salary or your income. Can I afford this? Have a reason as to why you'd want to take out certain debt. And if you find yourself deep in debt cycle, there are us people who are debt counselors who are able to assist individuals that are in serious debt crisis.
Yeah. Do you find typically people come forward though, Samantha?
Yes, they do. You get so many people calling in, I need assistance, I'm struggling debt, I want to stop taking out more loan. Because when a person is under debt review, it's a debt rehabilitation program. So we actually flag you that you are unable to open more debt whilst you're under the program, which has assisted a lot of people. Because if you get, for example, you get counseling and then you can still take out more debt, how are you going to find yourself out of the cycle?
Yeah, fair enough. All right, quickly, if people want to start the process of digging themselves out of whatever debt crisis they might be in, where do they start?
Do your research. You can find different debt counseling companies on the internet, or for now, you can also appoint a financial advisor if you feel that no, you do not want to be under debt review. Get someone who can actually help you manage your finances if you are not that disciplined enough, because I don't see it that hard, but I get some people get too quickly tempted, but it is very important to write down your income, your expenses, your budget, curb yourself. If you go to the store with a grocery list, stick to that list. That's how you teach yourself small and then you end up building. And it's very important with that to people to learn how to also save. We're not only living for now, there's also long-term goals you need to have, and it's very important for you to make sure that your future is also sorted out.
Absolutely. Samantha Moyana, this is really crucial advice. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Samantha is a debt counselor at National Debt as we continue covering the different aspects of what it's like being a young person in South Africa today. Many young people, of course, find themselves in situations where they feel over-indebted whilst also dealing with the country's socio-economic issues. Once again, Samantha, thanks very much indeed.